So, Tom, what's the latest?
Convergence. Putting your voice traffic over existing or planned data facilities to save money. For example, you could send the calls destined to your remote locations over your private data network and reduce your monthly telecom costs.
Okay, convergence. Seems attractive and it all sounds good. But what are the gotchas?
Well, it's still a traffic problem, and you need to know how much increased data the voice usage would generate to make sure your data facility is capable of handling it. In the end, it's a traffic engineering and economic issue.
So, how can I find out if my current data connection is sufficient, or at least how much traffic I will be adding?
Fortunately, there's a simple way to find that out. An InfoPlus traffic study with IP trunking analysis. It'll measure your current voice usage and give you the information you need to transition all or part of that usage to IP trunking.
Sounds interesting. Is the analysis expensive?
No, not at all. In fact, it's very reasonable. It's really just insurance against an inaccurate estimate, and there's no hardware or software required. It's all done remotely.
Oh yeah? How so?
To start with, we need to make sure we can capture the voice usage to and from your other locations. You see, most traditional traffic studies only report traffic on a trunk group by trunk group basis. And of course, we're trying to calculate usage and bandwidth requirements for all IP trunking over a single shared facility. And you can't simply add the trunk groups together to arrive at a useful number. For example, today you might have multiple hardwired facilities that serve different locations. Each needs the capacity to handle the busiest parts of the day. But if the busy periods don't occur simultaneously, the capacity you'll need when migrating to IP trunking will actually be less than the sum, since all of the traffic can share the same connection. This is where the InfoPlus traffic study is really a unique and powerful tool. We just need to make sure we capture the desired usage in order to calculate the aggregate bandwidth required.
Do we have that capability now?
Sure. Your communication server already captures data on every phone call made or received in a variety of different ways. The InfoPlus traffic study collects the data over a defined period of time. However, we have to make sure this data is captured in such a way to accurately measure the traffic you plan to send over your data facilities. For example, how do you place calls to your other domestic locations today?
We currently have a corporate-wide network of dedicated TIE facilities used exclusively for voice traffic, with which we maintain an excellent service level.
Okay, that's great, because then the InfoPlus traffic study can look at the traffic carried by those specific trunk groups and provide the necessary bandwidth calculations we're looking for should this voice traffic be ultimately transitioned to voice over IP. What about your international offices? How are calls made to these locations?
Well, we have an office in London, but because of the cost, we have only a few dedicated trunks, and the rest of the voice traffic to European offices is just directly dialed. So it's a mixed bag, really. Some dedicated facilities, but mostly directly dialed through the regular telephone network.
Well, here's where it gets interesting. We need to separate the PSTN traffic destined for one of your other corporate locations from the rest of the public traffic. But here again, the InfoPlus traffic study with IP trunking analysis can help us address that problem.
Really? How so?
Well, the communication server has it in a set of rules called route lists or route patterns, programmed in such a way that outgoing calls to specific area codes, country codes, and even individual numbers can be handled in any way that you define. This is used to send calls destined to specific numbers over one trunk group, but not another. The use of this route pattern methodology doesn't change the cost of the calls in any way. The calls will still use the exact same facilities they do now. It just allows us to measure the usage separately. Most importantly, this technique enables us to capture clean traffic data without incurring any additional usage costs.
Wow, Tom, this seems like a great way to begin the process. It sounds like we could really benefit from those InfoPlus tools you described. So how do we get started?